Hello everyone, my name is Luis. Today what we're going to be working on is sort of replicating the sort of effect we got going on here with Yoda. Um, this is a request made on Reddit, and the user asks, um, looking to learn how to create something like this. And then he posts this image. And he clarifies that he's looking specifically at this Yoda picture. So we're not gonna do the background uh, or the frame. So what? Well, let's reset all our tools real quick. Um, we're gonna be using Essentials, and this is Photoshop CS6, and we're gonna click over here, or rather right-click, and we're gonna hit Reset All Tools. We're gonna hit OK, and we're gonna go to Marquee. The reason I reset all the tools is if I make any changes, uh, and or if mine looks different, you can just reset your individual tool, uh, and you'll see the changes that I make if I make any. So we're going to copy this, Control C, and we're going to create a new project. Actually, I'm going to move this to my other screen. Just so I can use it as a reference, but you kind of just want to follow my steps. Um, yeah. And the other thing we're going to need is this sort of texture. If I bring this back over here, you can kind of see that the inside of Yoda is sort of watercolor texture, like, you know. And something else you're going to need is splatter paintbrushes, and you'll have to look those up. You can find them free online. Just be careful what the usage rights are, because you don't want to steal somebody's work and then make money off of it. I think these are copyright free, but we're not going to be making money off of this, so it doesn't matter. So we're going to go to File, New, and our settings for this was default Photoshop size 7 by 5 inches, and I changed the DPI to 150. But it's up to you where you want to make it. If you make it bigger, you'll want to scale the brushes bigger and so on. So the first thing we're gonna do is get our picture of Yoda, and we actually have the one that was used. So it's that right there, and we're gonna scale it down a bit. And let's see. Let's lock this layer. Actually, let's turn the opacity down a bit, because we're going to be tracing it. And then lock the layer. And the first thing we want to do to get the sort of effect that we saw in the picture is it's not really detailed as far as Yoda's features, like his face, his eyes, his fingers. But it does sort of have a different color for each different material. For example, his feet are green, his clothes is gray and brown, his face is green, his hand is green, and his lightsaber is actually blue. So we'll make it blue for the sake of the tutorial. So, and let's start by using the polygon lasso tool. You can use a different tool if you want to do this mask, but this should be good enough. You just got to make a circle. So, or rather, make a shape. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna create a new layer, And we're going to create a mask. And then let's go ahead and name it. I think I spelled that right. Okay. And we're going to use the fill. But we're not going to leave it filled. We're not going to fill all of them right now. Let's use our swatches. Yeah. So that's about it. And it actually fills the whole layer, but since we're using a mask, it only shows the part that we masked in. So like, let's say we wanted to go back and something didn't look right, we can use the eraser tool to erase away the mask. Oh, I'm sorry, the brush tool. And actually, don't forget to, are we still selecting? Oh, I'm sorry. Select the mask, use the eraser tool, use the brush tool. There we go. Use the brush tool. We have to make sure you have the mask selected. So we're going to Control Z a couple steps. Okay. Anyway, so that's that, and we're going to pretty much do the same thing for every different layer. And we'll put his face, since his face is the same color as his hands and his feet, we're just going to put all that on the same layer. So let's use the polygon lasso tool again. And it can be kind of rough. If you look at the original picture, it's not that perfect as far as the tracing. But some places like his ears seem to have quite a bit of detail. And his hair is also traced. So we'll trace his hair. And so we're going to make a new selection, and instead of completely getting rid of our old selection, like it did here, we're going to press and hold shift until we have the plus sign next to our cursor, and we're going to click and then just let go of shift and pretty much trace this hand. And that's that for the hand. And then don't forget to press shift. We're going to do the next hand. You can let go of the shift now. And if you want to use a little bit of detail, it doesn't really seem like they did it in the picture, but let's say we want to take away something like this gap, because this gap isn't part of his hand. So instead of, whoops, what did I do? It's acting funny. Instead of pressing shift or just clicking, you're going to press Alt, and then Alt, you'll get a negative sign next to the cursor, and that'll subtract away from the mask. So we're going to subtract this little gap here. And let's go ahead and do the feet, and I'll be right back with you. Don't forget to press shift. Okay, and we got everything that's essentially green selected, and we're going to create a new layer, and we're going to give it a mask, and I guess we'll go ahead and color it in. Sure. So let's get our fill tool, and the shortcut for that is G, and it's kind of confusing why it's G. It should probably be like B or something, but that's alright. It's actually just G is for gradient, and then gradient and paint bucket are on the same thing, the same button. So yeah, just press G. Whoops. Make sure that whenever you're filling, that you're filling in your layer as opposed to your mask. So let's get a good color for his skin, and it looks like it's kind of dark green, a little bit less saturated. That should be alright. This isn't going to look exactly like it or perfect, but it should still show you how to pretty much get the same sort of result. If you want to do it for maybe a different image, or if you're trying to practice. We're going to create a new, let's name this skin. We're going to create a new layer, and we're actually going to put it between the lightsaber, and then, actually let's move the lightsaber up, because the lightsaber's in the foreground. And we're going to put it between the skin and the lightsaber, this new layer. And if we go back to the original image, you can sort of see his pants are brown, and then sort of a coat is silver. So we're going to kind of try to do something like that. We're going to create two different layers, one for his coat, one for his pants. Even though you can kind of see that's consistently the same color. And you'll see why we put it in the middle in just a second. So let's begin with his jacket. Let's trace this. And let's just overlap this here. Okay, so here we can do one of two things. We can either trace around the face again, or we can just pretty much go from one edge to the other. From here, we'll create a point here, and then here. So we're pretty much going behind the face, and that's part of the reason why we put the layer here, but we're actually going to want to move it down because it's behind the lightsaber and it's behind the skin. And we're going to make that gray, a sort of gray color. Maybe a little bit lighter. That looks about right. And we'll sort of match the sort of texture he has going here in a little bit. For now, we're just making the making everything on a different layer. Okay, so the last thing we're gonna do is the pants. We're gonna turn off. Uh-oh. That's not what I meant to do right there. We should have made the mask. So press Control Z or Control Shift Z. Control Alt C rather. And that'll let you go back a couple steps. And we're gonna add the mask. And now we're gonna paint it in. That's my bad. We're gonna turn off this layer for a second, and we're gonna create a new one for the pants. Actually, for the pants, what we're gonna do is we kind of wanted to overlap our jacket layer almost, and you'll see why in a little bit. Whoops. So I kind of missed some of it over here, so we're gonna press Shift to to re-add it. And then let's create our mask. And let's fill in the layer with a brownish color. Maybe a little bit darker brown. Can't really find the brown I want, so I'm just gonna go in here and double click on your primary color and pick a color that suits it. So that looks good. Alright, so something we did miss was the lightsaber, well the handle. We're gonna go back in and redo that. So let's create a new layer, and the lightsaber is behind the skin but in front of the coats. So this is the coat layer, this is the pants layer. Make a mask, and we're going to fill that in with a dark gray color. Let's enable our other layers, and let's hide our background layer, the one that we used. We're going to hide that. We won't really need that anymore. Okay, now this is kind of the cool part as far as how they got the textures going. We're gonna put all this in a group. Control G, and we're gonna get our texture over here. We're gonna press Control A, Control C to copy everything, and then Control V. This probably won't look exactly like it, and I'll show you a couple different things you can do that it looks like they did in the picture, the original one. But first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna try to align it so this sort of area right here, maybe over here, that kind of looks like it has a lot going on, is over the picture, because if you look at the original picture, it looks like it has a lot going on in here. Whoops. And let's lower the opacity a bit. And let's so what I just did, I'm gonna increase the opacity back up. And I know it's not covering the whole lightsaber. We might figure something out with that. You want to press the Alt button, and I think it's something different for Mac. I don't really know what it is. I'm sorry. And you want to wait until you see this sort of arrow with a square pointing down, and it only pops up when you're in the middle of the two layers, and that overlaps it. And we're gonna mess with the opacity mode. So we're gonna keep scrolling down until we get something that sort of looks right. Actually, what I want to do real quick before we move on, we're actually going to desaturate it. So image, adjustments, desaturate, just so it doesn't mess with our colors behind it. Yeah, that's pretty much the only reason. And let's start messing with the opacity mode. I think multiply is multiply or linear burn might be our best one. Yeah, so we're gonna stick with linear burn. And we're gonna tone down the opacity a bit because it's a little bit harsh. Real quick, what you see in the other picture with the pants is it kind of fades in a little bit right there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over here to our coat layer, and remember we overlapped it. If you didn't overlap it, this won't work, but if you overlap the layer, you can erase here. Whoops. Right click, put the hardness all the way down, increase the brush size, and sort of start erasing away the pants, rather the coat. Start erasing the coat mask away, and you'll get this sort of blending effect. It doesn't look exactly like it yet, and it probably won't look exactly like it because we don't have the exact same texture overlaid on it, but you kind of have to, you know, when you do your own work, I guess you kind of want to be original. I don't know, but you know. All right, so we're making progress. And let's try to figure something out with this lightsaber. Something we want to do real quick is we're gonna Control Shift, or simply press Control and click the mask for the lightsaber, and we're gonna make a mask on here. Press the marquee button or the M to select marquee. Gonna right click on the selection, select inverse, and then we're gonna give this thing a mask. So what we just did is this picture, the texture doesn't appear where the lightsaber's at, and we're gonna create a new texture or a new layer. We're gonna come back over here and this should be fine. We're gonna paste it right there. Let's put it outside and above everything. And let's give it a mask. So this time we're gonna again get the lightsaber, get that whoops. Make sure it covers the whole lightsaber and select it, and let's make a mask. Make sure you have this watercolor texture selected, and then that looks kind of cool actually, but let's go to linear burn and see how that looks. That looks even cooler. Yeah, so we're gonna keep it at linear burn, and we're almost done. The last thing we want to do is add the splats and this sort of paint splatter. Let's close out this layer because we don't need it. So get your brush tool, and let's see if we have our, yeah. So we have our paint splatters already loaded in. And if you don't have paint splatters, or you downloaded paint splatters, but you don't know how to install them, just go to your paintbrushes, which is brush presets. If you don't have that, just go to window, brush presets, and click down, rather click on this options menu, and then hit load brushes, and then pretty much what you'd want to do is go to where you downloaded your downloads. Let's just say this is our download folder, and we're gonna copy our downloaded file, and we're gonna paste it in the brushes folder that Photoshop brings up, and we're gonna hit paste. I'm not gonna paste it because I already have it in here, but it'll pop it up in here, and then you double click that, you hit load, and then it loads it to the bottom of your brushes. So yeah, let's see if we can make these a little bit bigger. We're gonna give it a lot of spacing. And before we start putting the splatters down, we're gonna create a new layer. Let's group everything together, except for our new layer. And we're gonna sort of start putting splatter everywhere. But don't forget to select a color that goes with your picture. So we're gonna hit Alt and click somewhere on the pants. Those aren't really good paint brushes. I don't really like this big splatter, so what you can do is just get your eraser and erase it. Whoops. Okay, so that's really about it. The what made it look not perfect or not exactly like the other one, and this you'll probably run into this a lot if you're trying to copy sort of not complex art pieces but sort of unique art pieces, um, is that you'll kind of have trouble finding the exact uh, resources that they had um, for the artwork, but it sort of grabs the same sort of feel. Um, the texture used back here is definitely different, um, and it looks like they use multiple textures or really detailed textures. Um, so you might want to use a different watercolor texture, or it kind of looks like maybe a completely different texture in general. Let's do something real quick. I don't know if this is part of it. Um, we're gonna do a inner shadow. Whoops. And that sort of re-adds this sort of darkness he's got going on around the ears. I don't think it's necessarily a shadow that they used, uh, but that's one way to get that sort of effect. There's also some white splatter, so we're gonna see if we can maybe get some white splatter going on. So um, that's about it. I'm gonna go ahead and save this, um, and save it as a PNG. We'll just call it Yoda, and hit save. All right, thanks for watching.